Hello, welcome back to the podcast. Today's guest is someone that many of you will actually remember from a previous episode because our conversations resonated so deeply with our listeners that we have her back on. The beautiful Philly. Yay!
Awesome. I'm so excited to be here.
Today, we're taking that discussion even further. So if you have ever thought, I'm eating well, I'm taking the supplements, I've had all the testing, I'm doing everything my practitioner has recommended, why do I still feel stuck? Then today's episode is for you. We're going to be exploring something that isn't talked about nearly enough, and that's the role of our unconscious brain, nervous system, and limbic system, and how they can play a big role in keeping us trapped in our symptoms, even when we're doing all the right things physically. And it's not about blaming stress or saying that illness is just in your head. It's about understanding the fascinating relationship between the brain, body, and healing. So welcome back to the podcast, Philly. I'm so happy to have you here. For those who missed our first step, would you mind introducing yourself and telling them all of the wonderful things that you do, because you do a lot of wonderful things and have a lot of experience behind you?
Yeah, awesome. So my full name is Fillipa Bellette, and I have a holistic health practice called Chris and Philly Functional Medicine. Chris is my husband, so we work together, and we're best known for ending body burnout in busy people with energy, mood, and gut issues. And the holistic method that we have created over many, many, many years really came or was born out of my own 10-year healing journey. It took 10 years to heal because I got stuck with kind of just like the lifestyle changes and then going a bit deeper into functional medicine and focusing on physical healing of the body systems. And all of those things helped along the way, but it wasn't until I really addressed what Dr. Harmony just mentioned around deeper stuff happening in the unconscious mind, nervous system dysregulation, a brain that we're stuck in a limbic system trauma loop, that things really started to not only heal, but the healing that I have experienced has lasted long term, which is wonderful, which is what we all want. So along the way too, accumulated a bunch of modalities: clinical nutritionist, functional medicine practitioner, body mind coach, and trauma therapist.
Amazing. And I know like a lot of us practitioners, the journey often has started with ourselves, right? Like something's happened to make us want to heal ourselves. And then when we get that transformation and the results, we like just have this burning desire to help people. And like even for myself, I've been interested in health since like as long as I can remember, all through school, PE, health science was always my favorite subject. Came out at school, started nursing from 17 years old, and just studied so many modalities along the way. And then you find something that fully clicks and you're like, I need to share this. And I feel like that's definitely, all of the things we learn, they mold together to create this beautiful foundation and insight into different health modalities and aspects. But there's this usually something special. For me, it's Ayurveda. And I know for you, you've been practicing this functional medicine for years and years and years, and you've been helping people identify their nutritional deficiencies, their gut issues, their hormone imbalance, and inflammatory drivers. But just like your own story, you noticed that something was sort of not being fully expressed. So some of your clients, they were doing like all of the right things, like I said in the intro, like all the physical things, and they were following all the protocols, but they still weren't feeling very well. So what would you say was happening beneath the surface?
Just carrying on from that with a little bit of a story. I remember I had a client, and this was before I started doing the deeper, what we call metaphysical work, which is more that unconscious brain neural pathway work. And so I remember just having follow-up after follow-up every month. She'd diligently show up And it's like, are you taking your supplements? And all the supplements were prescribed based on lab testing. So it's like, it's clear that your body needs these things, and she would have lists of all the things that she was doing and eating perfectly and getting enough sleep and all the things. Yet every month, nothing changed at all. And I was just like, how is this possible? Like, what is going on here? And I never questioned her honesty. I know some people might be like, oh, well, maybe she's not doing the things. Maybe she's just pretending that she's doing the things. But I started seeing that as a pattern with some other clients. And then during COVID, all my health issues flared up again post doing physical work, which did help initially, but only for about a year or two. And then COVID came along and all the health issues flared up. And then I became that person doing all the physical things, but nothing was budging. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like now I know, one, how frustrating that was for the clients that I had been working with from a standard functional medicine perspective, who were doing all the things, spending a lot of money as well and not getting any result. And what I saw with them and what I started experiencing with myself too is there's a bit of a feedback loop that starts happening with stories that you tell about yourself. It's like, maybe I am the broken one. Maybe I am the one that maybe this is my lot. Maybe, why is it working for everyone else and not me? So there's a bunch of stuff that's happening underneath the surface, but essentially, deeply what's happening underneath the surface is there is a brain-body system that does not feel safe. And there's different physical and metaphysical reasons why that happens. But if your system doesn't feel safe to be in your body in this world, it's going to be really hard, if not impossible, to be able to heal, because your body will continue to be stuck in either sympathetic nervous system dysregulation or drop down into dorsal vagal, which is the shutdown. Likely the adrenals will still be producing a lot of cortisol. The brain will be producing a lot of adrenaline. So these are all the stress chemicals or hormones that are happening in the body. And it's really hard to heal those just with a supplement when there's this whole internal danger signal happening inside your system. And so when I started working in deeper, I did not understand any of that until I did the metaphysical work for me. And then I'm like, oh, this is what's happening for me. This is what has happened for me. This is what had been happening with these clients. And then as we started offering more of a holistic metaphysical component to our healing method alongside the physical work, we started attracting a lot of clients too who had been through a stream of doctors, practitioners, naturopaths. They'd done all the tests, they'd taken a gazillion supplements, but didn't get any results. And when they started working on the deeper metaphysical root causes, all of a sudden symptoms started to alleviate, disappear, transform. And initially, like in my brain, it was just like, whoa, this is a miracle. But then doing some deeper research, understanding what is actually happening with our physiology and even like our spiritual and emotional and mental health, in order for that to happen, it made complete sense why they weren't getting results in the first place just by changing their diet, getting rid of toxins or taking some supplements.
Absolutely. It's like we say, when it comes to sort of exercise and health, you can't outrun a bad diet. And I always say to my clients, you can't out-supplement a dharma deficit. And from like an Ayurvedic perspective, we look at the health as being equally important, the physical, the mental, emotional, spiritual, which you actually said, and the dharmic health, which is the alignment to purpose and how you're showing up in this world, which I'm actually excited to be speaking on your podcast about very soon. Yay!
Yes.
But yeah, it's so true. It goes so much deeper than just those sort of like tick boxes of protocols and supplements and the diet. And, the labs will show us to a degree what's going on, but they don't show the energetics. They don't show the metaphysical. Like that, they don't, yes, if like say cortisol and different stress hormones are affected, it will show within the labs in that way, but it's very limited to what we can actually see. So what I really want to talk to you about is the limbic system trauma loop, because I find this so fascinating. I know you've done a lot of work in this. I think this concept is very new for a lot of people. So can you explain what we mean when we're talking about the limbic system trauma loop?
It's a bit of a mouthful. Yeah. So the limbic system is part of the brain. I mean, and within that part of the brain, there's the amygdala, and there's a few other parts of the brain, but just to simplify it, the amygdala is part of the limbic system, part of the brain. So the role of this part of the brain is essentially survival. It's like, got to keep us safe, got to stay away from danger. If we're in danger, we got to send some signals to get this human out of danger. And it's also like there's different emotional centers in the brain too. But a big part of the emotional center in this limbic system brain loop is fear. And for very good reason. It's there to protect us. It's there to stop us from picking up a snake and getting bitten. It's there to to be cautious around the type of people that we bring into our space. But when you've been experiencing a lot of stress, then this limbic system can get stuck on an ever looping loop. And so what should happen is you might experience a stressor, and it's all part of the nervous system as well. But you might experience a stressor and the amygdala starts ramping up. It's like, danger, 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 let's get out of here. And then you remove yourself from an experience and you're safe, and then that dials down. When there's been a lot of chronic stress, and stress can come in so many forms. So it could be psychological, it could be a physical, it could be foods that you're eating, it could be that you're too hot or you're too cold, it could be chemicals and toxins, and also deeper than that too, it's the beliefs that we have about ourselves. It's repressed or suppressed unprocessed trauma and emotions that we're carrying after decades of being on this planet. And so all of these stresses will start building up, and when it gets too high, it can flip this limbic system into a trauma loop where essentially the whole system becomes really hypervigilant and your brain is constantly searching for danger everywhere, and it starts tagging things that are safe or neutral as unsafe. And that's where people start developing a lot of sensitivities to different foods, chemicals, sounds, smells. There might even be like health anxiety would be part of a limbic system trauma loop. It could even be things like I used to be able to go to that event or that environment or open up my emails and be fine, but now I'm noticing that I'm really hypervigilant and having a big stress response around all the things that I'm experiencing. So that's essentially how it presents. And you can't, yes, there are some lovely nutrients that you could use like from a supplement point of view or food as medicine to support brain health, but it's way more complex than that because the brain is also sending or connected. There's neural pathways all through our body, and there's our nervous system and nerves running everywhere. And so this part of the brain is also connected to every other part of us. And the way it gets our attention is often through pain. So that might be mental, it might be anxiety, it might even be depression if it's been going on for too long and the brain just has to like switch some tabs to off. But often it's like showing up as chronic pain or fibromyalgia type things, POTS, chronic fatigue, gut issues, heartburn, headaches, because pain is the way that humans respond the fastest to danger. It's kind of like when you touch something hot, a fire or a hot plate, and we feel pain in our hand, that is so that we can not continue burning ourselves.
It's so interesting you saying that because recently I have, like the last week has been so full on, so busy, lots of good things happening, but a lot of things that are creating a lot of stress. And I started getting like, I haven't had migraine for ages, like for so long. And I had like a 2-day migraine. I also had indigestion and like that reflux feeling, which I haven't had forever as well. And one of the things that my husband like first said to me, he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, yeah, I just like, I don't know. The food's just sitting up here. I'm not sure why. And I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I've been busy. And he goes, "Yeah, I know. But I know when you manifest these signs, there's something deeper going on with you emotionally and you're not saying anything about it." And I'm like, interesting. He like knows me really well. And
wise husband.
He is. And what's actually interesting is from living with me, no, he sees this like connection between like my emotional health and my mental health with these physical elements. And he's a Western medical doctor. So it's really interesting that he's actually really taking note of it and not just saying, here's a ranitidine for your indigestion, or like, here's this. He's like going, what's really going on, Harms? Like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, nothing. Because I like will bottle it down a bit, and then I'll end up going, well, actually, no. And he goes, I knew it always starts like this with you. Like, you show the physical, and then, so sorry for interrupting, but I just found that fascinating when you were saying about how it results in a lot of people. And maybe it's like type A, like personalities that try to push it down and keep going, where your body is just like, hang on, like, you're not okay.
Yep. And your example is a good one of an acute example. When it becomes chronic, is it's kind of like now it's going on for months and months and months. And now it's years and years and years.
Yeah.
I know that you have a gazillion tools in your toolbox and you're very self-aware. So whatever you did, I mean, feel free to share if you want to, but whatever you did to unpack that and allow that to move through you would have then dialed the amygdala part of the brain down, where it's like, because a big piece of that is lack of trust in self, or even like, you mentioned type A, so there's some other patterns that people often display when they get stuck in this long, chronic trauma system loop is like shame, feelings of guilt, that repression, because if you're not allowing things to move through your system, then it gets bottled up and it's going to get stored somewhere. And it's this internal pressure cooker that is constantly putting pressure on your system. So that's another source of stress. It might be consciously or subconsciously, lack of trust, broken rapport with self, disconnection with self, because the brain wants to know that we can trust all parts of us.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly what happened. Like it did exactly that. Felt like a pressure cooker. I was feeling pulled in every direction in my life, like just being pulled by so many different people and ways. And like I said, it wasn't all bad. It was just a lot of things going on at once. So like the business is going amazing, great. There's a lot of work going on behind it. It was the twins' birthday and their friends were all away. So I felt really bad for them. So I sort of had like 2 little events for them on 2 different weekends. Then soccer, like up in Brisbane, constantly driving hours away for it. Like, there's just so many little things going on. And so what I had to do to regulate myself is actually a term we call pratyahara, which is withdrawal from the external stimuli and senses. And usually, like, walking is my medicine. Like, I'm always just out walking, fresh air, great. But I couldn't even do that. I literally had to sit in silence in a dark sort of silent place and just breathe. Like I just had to have silence and stillness and just sort of come back into my body, because I felt like I was just getting pulled in all these different directions outside of myself.
Yes. Makes a lot of sense with all the things that you were juggling. So good.
So, okay, where am I going with this? So as you mentioned, we have different tools. So I do have different tools that I use in different situations, but again, I'm aware of generally what my body needs, but sometimes I can get to that point of what we call is like this crime against wisdom, where I'm still doing the things that I know are not conducive to my health. And that would put maybe this limbic system out of sorts, right? Because the way that you're explaining it, it's not actually always a conscious thing, this limbic system. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. It's all happening autonomically, for sure.
Yeah. And so what is interesting is that, we spoke about your clients who follow every protocol perfectly and they don't improve. But then there are others who can't seem to be consistent doing the things that would actually help them. So can the same limbic system trauma loop be driving both of these experiences?
Yes, definitely. For a couple of reasons. I mean, sometimes people can get in such a state of panic or overwhelm due to what's happening in the brain that they can feel a bit torn, like you were with the life stuff, but it could be like the small things that they need to do on a daily basis to help heal themselves and help themselves. And so it can show up that way, because your whole system can just feel so scattered, so overwhelmed. The smallest things can feel like massive mountains that you have to overcome. And so the to-do list to heal can become another stressor if the system is already stuck in everything is dangerous right now. It's like, oh, not another thing to do. Because most people, again, you mentioned type A people, a lot of people who do get stuck in this state have been doing a lot of things and have had an experience of burnout, and then it's tipped over into this limbic system trauma loop. And so then overwhelm can happen, but also I mentioned dorsal vagal. So if the nervous system is now in shutdown mode, which is preservation mode, it's immobilization. So it's trying to stay still, but in a unresourceful way in order to try and get some energy back, get some calm back. But it's not helpful because it's coming from a place of fear. And so then that's where people could feel really low motivation or just really exhausted. Like it's like, oh, I know what I need to do, but I'm so exhausted that I can't even do the things. And sometimes people can dissociate in this state as well, where it's just like, I know that I should be doing the things, but I'm not even in my body. And I can't even comprehend what are the things that I need to do. So a lot of brain fog can start showing up in this state as well.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a lot of perimenopausal symptoms.
Yes.
Knowing what's going on. So what are some, I know we've just spoken about some of those common signs and symptoms and examples of someone being trapped in this protective loop. Like we've just said, having like fatigue and that brain fog. I've got brain fog at the moment. Brain frog, I said.
Brain frog.
Brain frog. Oh my gosh, I've done too much talking today. My is like, woo! We teach the Ayurveda alchemist on Tuesday mornings.
Yeah, nice.
Anyway, back to the conversation. So some sort of examples of what we're looking for in relation to signs and symptoms that we've become stuck in this nervous system, in this loop.
Yeah, I think the biggest one is there's going to be some sort of element of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if we're thinking about the brain from a top-down point of view, when that brain, the amygdala, by the way, this is a segue, but the amygdala can also become enlarged. And so then therefore takes up more space in the brain to look for danger. So when you think about anxiety, it's always the fear, the worry about what is going to happen. What if I eat this food? What if I go to this event? Is X, Y, and Z going to happen? Am I going to have a flare? A friend or a partner might have had a difficult conversation and then they're ruminating on it. So anxiety is definitely a big one. And if you have noticed a pattern, not you, Harmony, but anyone listening, where you've been running anxiety for a long time and then it's swapped over into depression or shutdown or kind of apathy, that can also be a sign, but it usually happens after being in that state of anxiousness and like everything is dangerous, bad things are going to happen. And again, like it's often happening consciously, but it's also going to be happening subconsciously and somatically in the body. So the signs will be some sort of sensitivity.
Yeah.
I mentioned sound, light, foods, smells, perfumes. People tend to start gathering more and more sensitivities in this limbic system trauma loop. And this is another thing that I see clinically as well, is sometimes we've had clients, actually it's quite common that we have clients join us because their body is now so sensitive that they can't actually do physical protocols anymore, like specifically supplements, but even remedial things. It's almost like their body is in such high alert and so sensitive that it's rejecting physical things that are coming into them or on them as unsafe. Even though they have beautiful, healing, lovely properties, the brain is just like, oh, herb coming in or a vitamin B in a big dose. And I have even had clients where even homeopathics, diluted homeopathics, they are still sensitive to them. So that's on the further in the spectrum where it's just like, there's definitely something going on with the limbic system here.
For sure. Yeah.
And then, there's going to be a spectrum. So you might have earlier signs where if you get physical symptoms when you're stressed, as a lot of people do, but again, that can be signs that you're entering into that limbic system trauma loop.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. So, and I think another big one that I've noticed is like hypervigilance, like kind of always looking, like being aware. Like, so if I have gone into that sort of mode where this loop is happening and I go for my walk, which I find peaceful, I love it, like it's my walking meditation. Instead of feeling like that and I'm looking around because I'm leaf blown and I'm sort of jumping, like I know, oh gosh, girl, you got to do some work. What are you
Yeah, it's like,
doing?
whoa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, it definitely showed up. I didn't mention EMFs, but I mean, back in the day, before I got sick after having kids and having a business and all the things, you know, I could eat all the things. I definitely had no idea about toxins in skincare, cleaning products. Like I didn't react to any of that stuff. And so uh, part of my going into body burnout and developing a lot of chronic health issues was it was just felt like an accumulation of more things that my body was rejecting. So even if I walked into a freshly painted house, instant histamine response. So histamine intolerance and mast cell activation, quite common with limbic system trauma loop as well. I started having like anxious and painful sensations in my body when I was near computers, which is really hard because I was trying to build a business. Even like I had little kids back then. So their cries really would set me off. Now, if no one loves hearing babies cry, but it's actually some people do. Some people are like, oh, darling, come here. And, you know, that motherly instinct and that protective and nurturing nature clicks in. For me, it was like a tiger roaring. And so as a young mum back then, hearing my children, even sometimes when they were playing happily, but they were screaming and making loud noises, it was really dysregulating.
Yeah. My gosh, I feel like so many women are going to relate to this conversation. And we're all probably thinking, oh my gosh, my limbic system is so excited right now.
So excited. Another one too, because this isn't a health related one, but again, it's just another clue. Because it's one of our base needs for survival in our Western world is money. So sometimes people can develop a lot of hypervigilance, dysregulation around money too, where it's like, oh, it's not safe to spend it. I get stuck in analysis paralysis about making a decision around what to buy. Do I never feeling like I have enough, even if I look at my bank account and it's like I have more than enough. That was a massive trigger for me. And also because my husband was and still is a big risk taker and big visionary. And he's kind of like, it'll be okay. We're resourceful. We can make money. And when he was making big decisions or taking risks, massive source of conflict in our marriage in the past because my brain, like the amygdala, was just like, that was dangerous. And anytime he mentioned even an idea, it was like, that's dangerous. And I would usually shut him down or say some unkind words to him.
What about like overspending though? Is that something that can also be contributed to the limbic system? Or is it, I guess with overspending, it's like maybe you spend to get that dopamine hit. Is that something that's just not
that's
related?
interesting. I mean, it definitely wasn't my experience. I mean, I'm thinking about clients.
Because I probably
maybe
do
in
that
desperation.
to pacify my stress sometimes.
Yeah, I think it definitely could show up. I mean, it can be a sign of just regular nervous system dysregulation where either you get that dopamine hit or you get some sort of comfort or some sort of instant joy or happiness.
Yeah, because it's like I've accomplished something. Tick, I've got that thing that I quote unquote needed, but really never needed.
Yes. Yeah. Where it would be later on in the spectrum of the limbic system trauma loop would be if the spending is from desperation. It's like, I've got to fix this right now, whether that's a health thing or a house thing or whatever it is. And so then they might make really rash decisions and throw thousands of dollars at something without being able to rationally make sense around, like, is this going to be the right fit for me?
Yeah, true. Well, I think you have explained very well what it looks like when this system is dysregulated. So how do we downregulate the system? Like, how do we make it okay again?
Yes, the steps. There are some steps. Yeah, I mean, every practitioner or modality will have different steps for this, but what we do in our method is we want to create internal deep safety about self and identity first. And sometimes even before that, safety around even looking at self. So there might be like a pre-step before you even get there, because when we start looking at deeper beliefs about self and where is the broken trust with self and where is the broken rapport, sometimes that can cause more fear in people, especially if they're stuck, because they could start thinking, well, what am I going to find? And am I going to be able to fix what I find? And maybe it's better just to not know. And what if I have big emotions about this? And so some regulation may be needed, but the biggest thing is safety. So it's like, it's safe to look. Can we actually look at this with curiosity, with neutrality? Can we look at it maybe with a bit of play, depending on where someone's at? That might not be accessible yet. Knowing that whatever you find underneath the surface, a belief about self, every human being is going to have this stuff. So you're not weird, you're not broken. Even if it's something nasty that you're saying about yourself, it's also not true because you weren't born with these. So I think like some education around that is really important for the logical part of the brain, and also if they feel it in the body, even better, so that when they start looking deeper into patterns that they're playing and then beliefs underneath the patterns, and then looking at past events that have contributed to the beliefs that someone has created about themselves, it's going to be a lot easier to enter that journey. So that's kind of the investigation work. So did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just thinking, like what you said before about feeling safe to actually look at yourself. I find this so true with a lot of past clients as well, because often if you're talking about the safety aspect, right, the reason that they can sometimes stay in that sort of victimhood or repeat those poor patterns is because it's, although uncomfortable and they're not enjoying the ride per se, it's familiar. So they feel safer in that place because they are so familiar there. And then I have clients who I think they've tried like all the affirmations and they've tried the positive mindset work and the thinking, but they become really frustrated because it's very hard for them to change their thoughts if they don't actually fully embody that belief within themselves. And so I wanted to ask, but you might be going into this, but what was the difference, or what is the difference from your perspective between consciously believing something and your nervous system actually believing it? Because I think that's where there can be a disconnect.
Yes. Massive difference. I mean, both are connected. So that nervous system, let's also call it the body, the unconscious mind. That's 95% of the mind. Your conscious mind is only 5%. So just talking into if someone has tried the affirmations, the positive thinking, trying to reframe, it's really hard to rewire if you haven't done the unwiring work first. So the unwiring is really looking like deep into why am I here? Like, why am I running these patterns? Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and where did it all start? So it is doing some timeline work of going right back to before the age of 7, which is when we create beliefs and patterns and programming about ourselves, and understanding how you got there. My big belief is what you don't know, you can't change. So why I put so much emphasis on, well, what's the root cause belief? What's this? And it's always going to be an identity-based belief. So an I am statement. For me, it was I'm weak and incapable, which made so much sense from a physical point of view. I mean, it was showing up in all areas of my life, but it was also showing up in my body. It was almost like I had to overcompensate, and this is the hypervigilance, and know everything and research every rabbit hole and trying to control my healing, because subconsciously 95% of me believed that I was weak and incapable, and therefore my body also was as well. And so when you have that belief, again, it's really hard, if not impossible. It is impossible to heal because what you believe becomes your reality. So that's the unwiring work. And then the rewiring work. So I'm a big fan of mantras and affirmations, but it's going to be really specific for what you need. It's almost like we want to break down the foundation of where it all started. So that would also be doing like inner child work, reimagining work of past events from the past that is still stuck in the body. doing more somatic work. So we're not just staying up in our cognitive mental brain trying to change things, but we're actually feeling it deep within our body, like breathing, all the things that I know that you do really well, harmony, like for yourself and also your clients and people that you teach. You want to do it, the rewiring must come from top down, but also bottom up. And I also am a big believer that we don't just want to try and feel safe in the body, because we're adults and we have, like, our intellect is really smart. Our conscious mind is the captain that allows us to do the work that we need to do to heal. And so we don't want to disregard that and just hope that, I don't know, if I like rub my chest and sway and breathe, then all of this is going to disappear, because conscious mind also needs to believe something different.
Yeah.
And is willing to do the work and a big part of rewiring the limbic system, part of the brain too, is repetition and consistency. Because essentially it's just like it's got a highway of neural pathways to every other part of you that is keeping the system stuck in that danger, something bad is going to happen. And heaps of research shows that consistency and repetition will change neural pathways as we continue showing up wholeheartedly, messily, organically, imperfectly, with the intention of changing something that we want to change.
Yeah, 100%. I think, that consistency is like, that saying, you repeat it until you believe it.
Mm.
And at first it can feel really silly, really awkward, and like, how's this going to work? But like you said, only a certain percent is in our conscious mind. So the rest is happening where we can't even understand or see it happening. In that
Yes.
subconscious, that chitta
Yes.
mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a big part of that too, like I think about, we'll use the metaphor of the law of court of law, where if someone is found guilty, it's because they may be guilty. They also may not be guilty, but the evidence stacks up that they're guilty. So you can kind of think about that in terms of deeper beliefs you have about yourself, which are causing you to feel unsafe to be you in this body, in this world, activating that amygdala. The reason why consciously, but more so subconsciously, the body is still running this pattern and this belief is because the evidence of all the things that you have collected along the timeline to prove that that belief is true is still embedded in your neurology and your body. And so again, like another rewiring practice is actually going back into the past and finding pieces of evidence to prove the opposite. It's like, what else could be true? What else could be true? What else could be true? And then you're starting to do that in the present as well. And that's then when the affirmations and the mantras about self will start working for you, rather than trying to fight against decades of accumulated evidence that thing actually isn't true.
Yeah, absolutely. We do that in Ayurvedic psychology as well. I get a lot of my clients to list at the end of the day any evidence that belief is not true. So, and everyone's got their own individual belief systems. But, even if it's just, maybe their belief is like, I'm not worthy to be seen, but they walk past a stranger and they give the stranger a smile and that stranger smiles back at them. I mean, that's evidence, just like the smallest little things. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that there'll be listeners thinking that, wow, everything she said sounds like me. So what's the message you'd most like those people to hear today? And what is something that they can do just to take one towards beginning to rewire their nervous system?
Yeah, I might share a tool, and this one is a bit more around sensations and symptoms. So previously talking more, we want to reprogram and rewire deeper beliefs about self, because then it's safe to be you in your body. And what I find too with clients that do the work is that often a lot and sometimes all symptoms switch off purely by doing that, which is amazing. And then sometimes there is still some lingering sensations still hanging around. And I think about those as just old neural pathways that are still there, sending the pain signal down to another part of the body. So a really simple tool, because everything we've talked about is pretty chunky. It's kind of like, good luck, go and find your belief and change it. So we're talking very conceptual there, but I would love to leave your listeners with just a really simple tool that they can use on a daily basis that they could start practicing straight away. And personally, I found this so helpful with reversing things like histamine intolerance, 20 years of heartburn, even things like dairy allergy. And that's a brain rewiring practice called word swapping. And it's really simple. It's simple, yet can be extremely therapeutic and profound in its results. So don't disregard how simple it is and just be like, too simple, not complex enough to get the result. So if you're dealing with a symptom that you don't like or that is unwanted, that is uncomfortable, and that might be a physical symptom. It also could be something like anxiety or depression. Word swapping is a tool that you can use to change the way that you're experiencing the sensation. So as an example, I'll give you an example of what I did for heartburn. So when I used to experience heartburn, I had a whole mental image in my mind when I experienced it. And also my language was very heartburny. It's like, the heartburn is back. Oh, it feels like it's choking me. And even in my head, like if I closed my eyes in the moment, I would just see fire. And there was a lot of pain associated with it as well as an uncomfortable sensation. So what that does is when you experience a sensation and you react to it with whether it's frustration, anger, fear is a big one, it's going to send us a feedback loop back to the limbic system and the amygdala, where it's like, oh, this is dangerous. Like, yes, we sent the signal down to the gut to produce heartburn, but the way that this human is responding to the symptom feels really dangerous right now. And so it perpetuates the symptom. It can either feel worse in the moment or it just strengthens the neural pathways that continue perpetuating that symptom. So word swapping is a really simple tool that you can use to start breaking down your response to the symptom so you can actually start changing the neural pathways. And it's not toxic positivity. So you don't want to pretend that it's like, I don't have heartburn at all. My gut feels great, because you can't trick your conscious or your unconscious mind. So you want to still acknowledge the experience that you're having, but you're dialing it down to either something that's neutral or even something that is pleasant. So what I started doing and saying to myself in my head and also feeling it in my body when I experienced like a rage of heartburn was, and you can even see as I'm doing it, I'm using some somatic tools as well, or hear it in my voice, taking a deep breath, relaxing the body. My gut feels less calm right now. And I also tapped in like some self-talk to the body as well. It's like, I can feel that you're digesting food right now. Good job. Like that's what a gut does. It digests food. Just let it go down. And you can do that with any symptom. So another example might be if you're experiencing anxiety. It's like, take a deep breath, maybe do a little sway or a rub of the body. It's like, my mind feels less calm right now. I love the word calm, but you could use any positive word that starts wiring the brain towards what you want to experience instead. So the brain is very clever in that it will attach onto a descriptive word. So it's going to attach onto either heartburn, anxiety, or calm. And it kind of subtracts the word less. So you're not pretending that it's not there. You're just changing the way that you're experiencing that symptom or sensation. And then over time with repetition, that symptom will disappear. Like it will literally start coming down in intensity. Especially if it is connected to this, what we've been talking about, the limbic system trauma loop.
I love that. I love it so much. I'm definitely going to use that. Because you're validating your experience, but like you said, not in a positive or toxic positive way, as like you're actually feeling the feels, but also knowing that it is just an experience you're having in that moment. And maybe it's not really a true danger. And then you're switching it out for a reframe that is like, you're saying my base point, like for the anxiety one as an example, is like, you're reminding yourself that your baseline is actually calm.
Yes.
And so you just sort of like gone off that. You've just, and like what we say in Ayurveda all the time is like, it's always about bringing ourselves back into balance, whatever that means for us in our constitution. So really, if you're sort of stating that your baseline is calm, I'm not as calm right now. It's like you've just gone off your baseline, but we know we can always come back there. I really like that. That's a really good tool. Thank you for sharing that.
That's okay. And if you close your eyes in that moment and you actually imagine something like your brain being calm, whether it's fluffy clouds, your subconscious mind speaks to us through different ways. And one way is through metaphor and imagery. So that's going to have a deeper change at a subconscious level. And if you can involve the body some way to help regulate so the body feels safe when you're reframing, then you're doing a top-down and a bottom-up approach at the same time, which will make it more effective.
So good. Love it so much. So where can our listeners work with you? Where can they find you to work with you, I should say, and learn more about this?
Yes. So our website is probably the easiest place to find all the things, www.chrisandphilly.fm. I'm sure Harmony will pop it in the show notes.
I will.
We do have our own podcast, which Dr. Harmony will be on again very shortly. I might even send you the link. I have shared a whole, like if someone wants to learn a bit more about the word swapping, we do have a whole 1 hour podcast all about word swapping. So that might be really useful for someone who wants to go a little bit deeper in terms of how do I actually rewire so that I can start bringing more calm back to the brain? Yeah, and then we also have our program, the Ending Body Burnout Method program, which opens doors a few times a year. And that's where we're working with clients both physically through functional medicine, but we're also doing this deeper metaphysical rewiring work at the same time.
Amazing. So when's your next body burnout?
October.
Okay, perfect. This will be well out before October.
Awesome.
So if you're listening, you can sign up for the October one, which is so good to regulate your system just before that chaotic Christmas period.
Yes.
Like we think, oh, that's so far away, but trust me, it'll come quick. And then the chaos kicks in, the end of year chaos.
Yeah.
But also just the name of your podcast, because obviously people listening to this, they're all podcast listeners. So they're always looking for recommendations. So
yes, it's Ending Body Burnout Show.
Yay, Ending Body Burnout Show, guys. I'll pop all this in the show notes, but I know some of you might be on a walk listening and aren't going to stop to look at them. So at least you can quickly go and get out your phone if you're on the podcast app and quickly press Body Burnout Podcast, Ending Body Burnout, so that you can follow Philly.
Yay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.